start and I will start it.
Okay, you can start now.
Okay. We are live.
Okay, and I still have to hit our record button, correct? Yes.
That is correct.
Okay. Okay. Wait 2 seconds here. I'd like to welcome everybody to the first meeting of the new year of the Planning and Zoning Board. We'll first start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll take the roll call. And let me put up the flag. Okay. Do you see the flag?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic
for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. And Meg, if you could call the roll.
Sure. Miss Austin,
Present.
Mr. Castagnoli,
Here,
Mr. Cater,
Present.
Mr. Collegian,
Present.
Mr. Mortimer, I don't think I saw, Mr. Moore,
Present.
Mr. Sadi,
Present.
Mr. Zaharidis,
Here.
and Chairman Quish, or Mr. Quish, sorry.
I'm here.
Okay. The first order of business after roll call is the election of a chair and vice chair. I'm going to take nominations. If there's more than one nomination, then we will move to the text voting. And if there is not more than one nomination, then we could just do it by acclamation. So,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
I'd like to nominate Jim Quish
Okay.
for chairman. He's done an excellent job for the past 2 years that I've been on the board, and even longer than that. So I think he should continue as chairman.
Do we have a
Mr.
second?
Sulkus, I'll be seconding this, Mr. Sulkus.
Okay. Okay. Do we have any other nominations for chairman? Going once? I'm scanning
Yeah.
the faces. Oh,
I'd
yes.
like to nominate actually Bob Sadi.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Bob, will you accept the nomination?
And I'm really flattered, but I prefer not to take the job of running the whole show. But thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Okay. That being said, do we have any other nominations? Well, if we have no other nominations for chair, then by unanimous consent, we will have Jim be the new chair, or return to the chair.
Great.
Congratulations, Mr. Chair. Now you can do the election for the vice chair.
Thank you. I would like to put in the name of Bob Sadi for vice chair.
Second,
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Seeing none, that's unanimous. Congratulations, Mr. Sadi. You've done a fine job and I appreciate all your work.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so we have new business is closed by March 10th, 2022. CGS 824, 0 Northmore Road and 0 Eastmore Road, acceptance of deed in lieu of taxes for acquisition of 0 Northmore, map 39, block 613B, parcel 27, and 0 Eastmere at map 39, block 613B, parcel 27B. 0 Oakdale Avenue, map 39, parcel 613B, parcel 613B again, and parcel 27D, and 0 Northmore, map 39, parcel 613, parcel 4F. David, if you would walk us through this application.
Actually, I was hoping that John Burcham, who is attending this evening, could. Basically, this is my understanding is this is a tax foreclosure. So these the parcels are being handed to the city in lieu of taxes.
Now, is John here on the call now?
Yes, he is.
I am, Mr. Chair.
Oh, thank you. Would you
I don't
like to
really-
address us?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have much more to add than Mr. Sulkus added. This is simply a deed in lieu of taxes that are owed for the parcels identified that you just identified.
Okay, so just so that we're all informed, what is the process after we approve this? It goes to the alders. Is that correct?
Yes, this is it's an 824 request. So to accept the properties in question pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 8-24, it is referred to the Planning and Zoning Commission for a recommendation to determine whether the property at issue, whether it's acquisition or disposition, in this case acquisition, is consistent with our plan of conservation development. If it's a positive referral by your board, Mr. Chair, then it proceeds to the Board of Aldermen, in which case a simple majority in favor of the deed in lieu of taxes would consummate or formally approve the proposed transaction. If it's a negative referral from your board, it would take a supermajority from the Board of Aldermen to approve the proposed transaction.
All right, great. Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board?
Yep, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Discuss it, please.
John, are we taking this property by foreclosing, or is the deed a settlement?
The deed is a settlement.
Okay, all right, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, I'd hear a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I move to approve as presented the petition of the city of Milford for a CGS 8-24 approval of acceptance of deed in lieu of taxes for acquisition of 0 Northmore Road, map 39, block 613B, parcel 27, 0 Eastmore Road, map 39, block 613B, parcel 27B, Oakdale Avenue, map 39, parcel 613B, parcel 613B, parcel 27D, and 0 Northmore Road, map 39, parcel 613, parcel 4F.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, Meg, would you please call the roll?
Yes, and before I do, I an oversight in not recognizing Mr. Hirsch, who's joined the board as well. So I will call
Oh.
your name for the vote. My apologies.
Oh, my
Eitan.
apologies as well. But we can welcome him now, and we'll welcome him again in a little while.
Very good. Okay, for the vote, Ms. Austin,
With the motion.
Mr. Castagnoli,
Yes,
Mr. Hirsch,
With the motion.
Mr. Cater,
With the motion.
Mr. Collegian,
With the motion.
Mr. Moore,
With the motion.
Mr. Sadi,
With the motion.
Mr. Zaharidis,
With the motion.
and Chairman Quish.
I'm with the motion.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. Next order of business is 90 Melba Street, Zone R5. Petition of Warren Field for a coastal site plan review to construct a single-family dwelling. Map 29, block 589, parcel 2, of which 3S Properties is the owner. The applicant has the floor.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Chairman.
before we start, point of order, do we have to hear these separately?
I was just going to start, Mr. Sadi, with my presentation, asking that we have both of these heard at the same time. They're two houses adjacent to each other. So if it's the board's pleasure, I'd like to just direct my comments to both parcels at the same time.
Okay, Mr. Sulkus, do you have any objection to that?
There's no objection to that.
Okay. Has anybody, any member of the committee or of the board have any objection to hearing them both?
No, no.
They actually share a camera port because they're basically the two identical houses.
Gotcha. Okay. It does make sense. I just want to make sure all the board agrees and doesn't have an issue with it. If seeing none, then we will hear both at the same time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And, you know, David will direct you at the end. There'll be the necessity of two separate motions for each property, but the two houses are identical, so I'm going to direct my comments for both 90 and 92 Melba. So just for the record, I started off identifying myself, Thomas Lynch, with the law firm of Lynch, Trimbicki and Boynton. My office here in Milford is at 63 Cherry Street, and I'm here tonight representing 3S Properties LLC and its manager, Buddy Field, who's also on the Zoom with us. Buddy and his partners bought this property this past year, and the development proposal is to build 4 residences on the piece of property that was formerly owned by the June family and for many, many years operated as the Beachcomber Cafe down in Bayview Beach. And I have to say there is a tinge of sadness as I make this presentation to you, because I spent many a fun night at the Beachcomber over the years, but I think the neighbors down in that area, with the removal of a non-conforming use in a residential zone, are going to be very pleased with what Buddy's going to be doing on this property. So as David said, these two lots are identical in size. They're 40 by 100 feet with frontage on Melba Street. These two residences on these two lots are actually the parcel where the Beachcomber Cafe was formerly located before the building was raised. So these two lots are on the northern portion of the property. Later development will be the two houses that are going to be built once the paper street shown on the 1921 map of Point Beach and Bayview Beach, referred to as Chester Street. There'll be 2 additional houses built to the rear of these with improvements to Chester Street that'll be required by the Department of Public Works. But for now, this proposal and this CAM application is for the construction of the 2 residences at 90 and 92 Melba Street. So the plans as submitted to you, David has put on the screen the site plan prepared by Paul Stowell. The 2 houses are zoning compliant. These are non-conforming uses. Non-conforming lots in the R5 zone. They're 40 by 100 feet, but they have been certified as non-conforming lots pursuant to our regulations. And actually the recently enacted removal of section 642 of our zoning regulations allowing development of these lots for the residences. So the plans for these 2 houses are for these houses on Melba Street. The plans have been designed to have rain gardens and actually 4 rain barrels designed to take care of the stormwater runoff on the 2 lots. Your agenda tonight has the recent December 11th revised memo from Greg Podlutsky, the city engineer, who has reviewed the plans and has found them to be satisfactory. One comment that Greg had in his review was that he wants to see the improvement design for Chester Street to be submitted to the zoning office as part of the approval of this application. And certainly we have no objection to that, but those 2 houses are going to be built at a later time. But certainly the plans for the improvement of Chester Street in accordance with Public Works design standards and the city engineers design standards will be met in terms especially of providing for utilities, the curbing, aprons, and the sidewalks. So these are, as I said, 2 fully zoning compliant residences. The plans call for two 3-story houses to be built, some 3,200 square feet of living space for each house. But they're going to be beautiful additions to the neighborhood, and Buddy looks forward to moving forward with this project and starting it off with these 2 houses. So other than that, if the board has any questions, we can certainly entertain them, but it's a straightforward request, and the plans have been approved by the city engineer, and David's report speaks for itself. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any question or comment from the board?
Questions, Mr. Quish, if I might, to Attorney Lynch?
Yep.
Happy New Year, Attorney Lynch.
Happy New Year to you, Bob.
I'm trying to sort out, we have paper, we don't have the paper anymore, but the Chester Street is on your plan that was up previously, but is that an actual dedicated street that was on some city map?
Yes, it's on a 1921, it's a paper street on a 1921 subdivision map, so that technically, since the zoning regulations weren't implemented until 1929, 1930, these are not dedicated streets. These are paper streets that are shown on a subdivision map, but they will be, the street will be improved to current city standards, as I said, in terms of the curbing and the aprons and the sidewalks. So as shown on that 1921 map, Chester Street will be improved from its intersection with Melba Street back to the 2 residences that will be built to the rear of the property.
Thank you. And we now can see from the screen share, that might, the only thing I had a question on, which is where it says concrete, and then to the far right about there, it says 9 degrees. It appears that the red line does not go back straight. And I just want to make sure that if we approve this one, that we're not landlocking the 2 other lots behind it. If you understand my question, if you do.
Yep, no, Chester Street is going to be an improved street, and what you see, the red line is actually the deed line for the lot itself. So the difference between that red line and where it says concrete curb, it's the city right away where the sidewalk will be built, and there'll be a concrete walkway to the back there.
Well, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure dealing with you. Look forward to another part of the year.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Castiglione.
yes, Tom, is Chester Street, was that in the parking lot of the Comer?
Yeah, that was to the far left
Right.
portion of the property, Joe, and it actually goes back behind where the actual parking lot was.
Okay, okay. It was in the parking lot and it goes behind it.
Yep.
The bottom of these 2 houses, the first floor, is that raised?
Yes, these are, it's the AE flood zone, Joe. So the first floor, the finished floor is set at 15.5 feet elevation, and it has the designed vented foundation with, again, as I said, the rain barrels to accommodate
Right.
the stormwater runoff.
So how many floors are livable?
There's going to be 2 floors that are going to be fully finished, and then the attic level will be finished off to be used as like a great room if need be or whatnot. But there'll be actual 3 floors to the house, and the elevation is set at 33.5 feet. So that's within our 35-foot elevation regulation.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, good. Okay, great. All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, seeing none, I would hear a motion.
Chair, on 90 Melba Street, I'd like to make the following motion. I move to approve as presented the petition of Warren Field for a coastal site plan review to construct a single-family dwelling at map 29, block 589, parcel 2 and 26, of which 3S Properties is the owner.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, Meg, if you would, please call the roll.
Ms. Austin,
With the motion.
Mr. Castagnoli,
yes.
Mr. Hirsch,
With the motion.
Mr. Cater,
With the motion.
Mr. Collegian,
With the motion.
Mr. Moore,
With the motion.
Mr. Sadi,
With the motion,
Mr. Zaharidis,
With the motion.
and Chairman Quish.
I am also with the motion. Thank you. So we're on to now 92, Melba. We need obviously two motions and to complete the application, having conjoined them already. Do we have a motion for 92?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve as presented the petition of Warren Field for a coastal site plan review to construct a single-family dwelling at map 29, block 589, parcel 2 and 26, of which 3S Properties is the owner.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Austin, thank you. Motion is second. Do we have any discussion on the motion? Seeing none. Meg, if you would please call the roll.
Ms. Austin,
With the motion.
Mr. Castagnoli,
Yes.
Mr. Hirsch,
With the motion.
Mr. Cater,
The motion.
Mr. Collegian,
With the motion.
Mr. Moore,
With the motion.
Mr. Sadi,
with the motion,
Mr. Zaharidis,
With the motion.
Chairman Quish.
I'm also with the motion. Good luck with the project. Next order of business is a public hearing closed by February 8th, vote by March 20th, 2022. 37 Point Beach Drive, Zone R75, petition of Adam Verneau, Race Coastal Engineering for a special permit to repair a seawall at map 030, block 635, parcel 2, of which John Garces is the owner. This was tabled back in December. But the applicant has the floor.
Hello, everyone. My name is Adam Vernant. I'm with Ocean County Construction. We are the contractor selected to do this project. We have the plans prepared by Race Coastal Engineering. We have the DEP's approval for certificate of permission to move forward. I have filed with the town. Basically, what we are looking to do is repair the seawall footing, the patio that's damaged on top, then also incorporate a new set of stairs inset the seawall itself. Not that area, that's, if you scroll down further. Yes, right there. So we plan on using either the same footprint or bring it back in a little bit more from the coastal spot. And just wanted to present.
Okay. Any questions? Or David, why don't you give us the city's perspective on this?
The applicant proposes to retain and repair a seawall. The seawall is within 25 feet of the mean high tide water line, making this application a special permit for section 4.1.16.2. A DEP approval was granted on 7/23/21.
Okay.
Very straightforward.
Okay. So are there existing stairs where you're proposing stairs?
No, there is not.
So the only new construction, then you're repairing the existing seawall. If you're underpinning it, you're going to take out sprawled concrete and rebuild that. Is that the scope of your work?
That's correct.
Okay, and so but the stairs is new construction. And
Yeah.
and the new construction of those stairs, question to David, is that encroaching on any either setback or deep regulation?
No. It's not going water, we're just going inward, and DEP has approved the project.
Oh, I'm sorry. I see it now. I was thinking upside down. I apologize.
Here,
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, this is a public hearing, so I would invite any interested party to come and speak. Please state your name and address for the board and keep your comments to about 3 minutes. You can either wave or electronically indicate that you'd like to be heard.
And I will scan the crowd. So you can either do an electronic wave or a physical wave in front of your camera. And I'm scanning the crowd. I see no one physically waving. And I'm scanning the list of attendees. I see no electronic hands. So going once for your opportunity to chat about this, going twice. I don't see anybody, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. So we'll close the public hearing. And I see a lot of people here, and I just want to make sure that the public that is watching knows that 615 Plains Road has been postponed. So if your interest was in that specific application and that specific public hearing, it will not be heard until at least 1/18, 2022, actually. But at any rate, getting back to the issue at hand, we have a closed public hearing. Do we have any other questions from the board? Seeing none, I'd hear a motion.
I'll do it.
Okay, Mr. Cater.
This is for 37 Point Beach Drive, Zone R7.5. I move to approve as presented the petition of Adam Verno, Race Coastal Engineering, for special permit to repair seawall at map 030, block 635, parcel 2, of which John Garces is the owner.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Ms.
Second.
Austin. Motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I would ask Meg, please call the roll.
Ms. Austin,
With the motion.
Mr. Castagnoli,
yes,
Mr. Hirsch,
With the motion.
Mr. Cater,
With the motion,
Mr. Collegian,
With the motion.
Mr. Moore,
With the motion.
Mr. Sadi,
With the motion.
Mr. Zaharidis,
With the motion.
and Chairman Quish.
I'm also with the motion. Thank you for the presentation and good luck with your project.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Okay, as I said, 615 Plains Road is not going to be heard tonight. Next order of business closed by February 8th, 2022, vote by April 14th, 2022, 150 Post Road, Zone CDD1, petition of Tony Capola for special permit with site plan review for a gas station at Big Y Supermarket on map 043, block 304, parcel 69, of which BGCT001 is the owner. The applicant has the floor.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ryan Scritorel, and I'm a professional engineer with Alfred Benish and Company, here representing Big Y for their application in front of you. Our address is 120 Hebron Avenue in Glastonbury, Connecticut. With me tonight are Tony Capola and Chris Elliott with Big Y, Steve Ullman with Alfred Benish and Company, who's our traffic engineer, and Larry Webster, also with Alfred Benish and Company, our petroleum specialist. We also have Sean Thomas of Phase Zero Design, who's the architect of the project as well. So tonight I plan on giving just a brief presentation for you all regarding the overall project scope and design, and then opening it up for any questions that you guys may have. If it's at all possible, I did create like a little slideshow that has some renderings that
Yes.
that's all right, David?
Yeah, you can share the screen.
Okay. You actually have to stop sharing. I apologize
Oh,
before I can start.
I'm sorry about that.
It's quite all right. All right, let me just. So is everybody seeing me?
I'm here. I'm on the line.
Okay, thanks, Sean. Can everybody see my
Yes.
slideshow now? Okay, perfect. All right, so the site is located at 150 Boston Post Road, which is Route 1, and you guys should all recognize this as the Big Y supermarket in town. The site is located in the Corridor Design Development District, and for your reference, for the rest of my slides, north is page right and south is going to be page left on the maps that I'm displaying this evening. So Big Y is looking to redevelop the portion of the existing parking lot and convert it into a Big Y Express fueling station to better serve its patrons. The primary area that we are focusing on is the southerly portion of the parking lot, denoted by the first 2 or 3 rows of parking in this area here. The goal of the design was to minimize the disturbance to the supermarket operations and still provide value to its customers. So with that, we're proposing minimal site work for the addition of 2 20,000-gallon USTs, a small kiosk, which is only 20 foot by 13 foot or 260 square feet, and a 26 foot by 124 foot canopy with 4 dispensers or 8 fueling positions underneath. We've situated the fueling operation to limit disruption to the supermarket facility while it's being constructed and minimize the disruption in parking. Currently, the facility has 282 parking spaces prior to the development. With the design as it's laid out, we're proposing a total of 260 spaces or a net reduction in 22 spaces overall. Zoning requires 220 parking spaces for our uses, so we are greatly exceeding the minimum requirements as outlined in your zoning regulations. We're also proposing to relocate the handicap parking that we are disrupting to the north, as shown in the rendering here. We are fully zoning compliant with all of our required setbacks and coverage for this development as well. Deliveries for the fueling operation are going to occur during off-peak hours, so as not to disrupt the operations of both the supermarket and the express fueling station. We have situated the tanker delivery to occur within the southerly driveway entrance, and then once they have fueled up the tanks, they will proceed behind the building as most deliveries are occurring now. So the small kiosk that has been designed strictly to function as a transaction location for the users of the fueling station. It will have 1 attendant, and the public will only have access to make a transaction for the fuel or for other small items. The restroom is not going to be public access, and we propose to match the existing Big Y supermarket aesthetics with brick, a red reveal, and Sierra tan as the color scheme as displayed on this drawing in front of you right now. This is just a quick perspective of the kiosk and canopy that Phase 0, our architect, prepared for tonight's meeting, just to give you kind of a quick snapshot of what that would look like. So all of the fueling components will be modern and are going to include double proppant crash shear valves, leak detection for all of the piping, sumps, and dispenser pans. We've also included positive limiting barriers for the fueling mats and overfill protection for the storage tank sumps as well. All of these will be monitored by the attendant and the monitoring systems. I just want to make a note that the attendants are all trained via a system that we put together for Big Y. In case of a small spill, they have a kind of a procedural spill prevention plan that they adhere to. So they've all been fully trained in that regard. Since we are proposing to place our development within the limits of the existing parking lot, our stormwater for the site resulted in a net reduction in peak rate runoff produced for the development of this area. The existing Big Y supermarket utilizes several large underground detention chambers to throttle back peak rates to that of existing conditions. Since we are reducing peak rates for our development, we are going to be tying into that same system and adding some additional features to focus on the stormwater quality. We are installing several 2 hydrodynamic separators and 2 oil grit separators upstream of the detention system. This is going to provide additional stormwater quality prior to the stormwater working its way into the detention system. At this point, we have received and responded to all town staff comments that we have subsequently been given at this point, and feel that the design meets the requirements of the town of Milford zoning regulations. So that really sums up my brief, albeit quick presentation for tonight, but I just wanted to kind of give you guys a good overview of what was going on at the site. It is fairly minimal with regards to the overall development, and hopefully those renderings kind of help display what was going to happen in terms of what we're influenced on the site. So at that point, I'd like to open it up for any questions you may have for either myself or my team.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your presentation. It was very clear and forthcoming. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
Which I have a few, please. This first one is through you to Mr. Sulkus. It appears that we have undeveloped land either to the west or south, wherever you're looking at it. Is that part of an item that we have reviewed in the last couple of years that we're waiting for it to be developed, or is it still vacant and that's how it is? I just trying to remember.
Yeah, that was part of a subdivision that was approved by the board that included that parcel, this parcel, and the parcel behind this, which has the apartments. The city owns that vacant parcel now. It has been proposed in the past as a location for a new police station.
That's what I was trying to think. Thank you. Now, this is to the applicant. There's a lot of materials. The presentation was great, but what is the size of the tanks that you're putting into the ground? And again, I'm assuming that they're all compliant, but just if you could just explain that briefly.
Sure. So we're proposing two 20,000 gallon underground storage tanks. So there'll be 40,000 gallons of fuel being stored underground. Both those tanks, I give you kind of the layman's terms of how everything kind of operates, but those tanks are going to be double wall fiberglass tanks. Both of them have an interstitial kind of space between them that kind of helps protect against leaks in case the inner tank does, have some kind of an issue. There's also leak detection in that interstitial space. So if anything ever was to happen, it would sound an alarm off automatically over at the kiosk area. Also, all of the piping that we do install is all new P piping, which is a very modern system with leak detection as well. So every component of the actual system that Big Y puts in has leak detection or some sort of an alarm that does go off if in case of any sort of subsequent leak that happens from the system itself. And then there's obviously, like I had mentioned before, double poppet crash valves at the dispensers, and also the tearaway valves at the dispensing unit, the hoses themselves. So if anybody accidentally, drove off with the hose in their car, it would shut off the valve of immediately stopping fuel from moving, and continually flowing at that point. So everything is a modern day system. And it's fully up to date and up to code for DEP systems at this time. So
one final question regarding the handicap parking. You're not giving up the number of spaces, but you're just moving where they're located. Is that what I heard from your presentation?
So we are subsequently removing one space, but we had an extra handicap space per the allotment that we needed. So we are still meeting all requirements for ADA compliance here at this point. We just basically moved them and restriped the area that had some additional space for it.
Does the moving of them make it more difficult for people that might be operating a handicapped vehicle to get into the premises?
No, they didn't. They actually were equidistant. It's just we shifted them over to the other section that was already handicap allotted. So essentially there was some additional striping that was there that was extra space that we were able to utilize. So it doesn't increase the distance by any means. So
thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board?
I had a quick question. Any
Yes.
concerns in regards to emergency vehicles for that, for this project? And how it may?
No, I mean, the system, the site itself has already been designed for all emergency vehicles to make their access around 360 degrees around the building. We don't see any issue. We actually ran tankers through the internal parking lots for our original design. Now we kind of segregated it around the outside of the building. So we do know that emergency vehicles can get around the kiosk area, and they also have enough clearance underneath for them to get underneath if they did have issues or anything of that nature. But we don't see any issues with emergency vehicles being able to access the site.
Okay, great. Any other questions or comments from the board? David, if you would just give us a quick overview. I'm sure it's fairly clear already, but before we open up the public hearing, is there anything that you feel the city should present?
I can just give you the administrative summary, which is the applicant is proposing an accessory gas station to the existing Big Y supermarket, which is by special permit per 3.16.2.3. The gas station will consist of a 240 square foot kiosk. That number might be just slightly smaller now. There was a tweak. and 4 gas pumps located under 2 canopies, 2 gas pumps per canopy. Overall existing parking will be reduced from 282 to 262, and provided parking will remain zoning compliant since the existing 55,000 square foot store only requires 220 parking spaces. And just to let Mr. Moore know, the fire department and police department both reviewed this and didn't have any issues with it.
Great, thank you for that. If there's no other questions or comments from the board, we will open this up to the public.
Okay. If you would like
Okay,
to.
seeing none, this is a public hearing. Anybody would like to speak to this issue, please either wave your hand or acknowledge electronically that you would like to be heard. If you do, please state your name and address for the board and keep your comments to about 3 minutes.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I am scanning. I do not see anyone waving their hands. I do not see anyone raising an electronic hand. So if you'd like to speak, please raise your hand going once. If you'd like to speak, please raise your hand going twice. And Mr. Chair, no one has indicated that they would like to speak.
Okay, so with that, we will close the public hearing. And without further questions or comment from the board, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
I move to approve as presented the petition of Tony Capola for a special permit with site plan review for a gas station at Big Y Supermarket on map 043, block 304, parcel 69, of which BGCT 001 is the owner.
Thank you for that. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Austin? Motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, Meg, if you would please call the roll.
Ms. Austin,
With the motion.
Mr. Castagnoli,
Yes.
Mr. Hirsch,
With the motion.
Mr. Cater,
With the motion.
Mr. Collegian,
With the motion.
Mr. Moore,
With the motion.
Mr. Sadi,
The motion.
Mr. Zaharidis,
With the motion.
and Chairman Bush.
I am also with the motion. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you very much.
At this point, we will again acknowledge that 615 Plains Road has been postponed. And we will enter executive session. David, you have the list in front of you and I do not on who's invited in. So just as a preference, as a preface to this executive session, the Connecticut Post Limited Partnership, that we know as the Mall,
Yep.
has started a lawsuit with regard to our denial of their application. Is docket number AAN CV 21-604-5201S. And it is the recommendation of the city attorney that we go into executive session with representatives of the mall, as we'll call it, and discuss this issue. This will not be available for the public, and it will just be those who are invited, which is the board. It is David.
Yep.
And you will read the list.
Yep, I'll read the list. The list of invitees is obviously the board, John Bertram, John Nuff, John Michelle, Whitney Livingston, and myself.
So Meg, there's no minutes. Meg is not in,
Meg will not be in that, no.
and Mr. Griffith is not in.
Correct. So I will start the breakout room and you will be popping up on your individual screens will be an invite to go into that room. Please click on it. And once everyone is there, the meeting will start.
Yeah. So
Question, before we start, point of order, do we not need a motion to go into executive session?
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Before we go into executive session, we will we'll go over. We will have a motion. We will also acknowledge to the public that after the executive session, we will come back into a public meeting and we will take care of old business liaison reports, subcommittee, approval of minutes, and chair's report, and staff report. So those things will happen after the executive session.
Just
So
one,
your motion to go into executive session.
just one quick thing.
Yes, Blessing.
Can you make me the co-host so that I can hold this room while you guys go into executive sessions?
Okay, we can do that.
But it
Yes,
will not be recorded.
yeah, because it can't be recorded and you can't be participating in that.
Yeah, so I'll be here and the stream will still be going on live.
Yes.
Breakout.
Okay. Yeah, we can do that. That's not a problem.
Okay.
Mr.
I think we're
Chairman,
at the point that Mr. Castagnoli made the motion. Mr. Quish,
Let's hear the motion.
I'd like to move to go into executive session.
Okay. We have a second.
I'll second it. And I think that I'd ask him to amend it, the reason that he put on the record, the reasons, Mr. Castagnoli.
The reason is we're going to be having discussions with the attorney and the petitioner for a motion that was denied.
Or another way is to say it is regarding litigation that we are involved in.
Okay. Regarding litigation.
I
Okay,
would continue my second on that, with that amendment. Thank you.
thank you much. And if I would ask for unanimous consent. Anyone not in favor of going into executive session? Seeing none, we're in executive session.
Okay, I will be sending the invites to the breakout room.
We have to sign into it?
You're going to just get an invitation and you're just going to click on it.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay, and here we go. Let's see, did you get it? Or did it not work? Okay. Okay. Just waiting for people to return. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Okay. 1, 2. Okay. Nancy's about to join us. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, everyone has returned. We have all 9 members. And Jim, you're muted, Jim.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we are back to our public session. The executive session has been closed. Old business, none. Liaison reports.
Report, Mr. Quish.
Okay. Subcommittee reports. We are still working with our POCD potential vendor to value engineer it down to a budget that is acceptable to the city. And I think that effort is going extremely well. We have approval of the 12/7/21 minutes. We have a motion. Nancy,
Motion to approve.
do we have a second?
Second.
Joe's first. The first second, not the second first, but the first second. Okay. Unanimous consent without objection.
Noted abstention by Mr. Sadia, wasn't present at the meeting.
Okay, abstention. So 2 things on the chair's report. I would like to welcome Etan. Welcome to the board. I'm sorry I didn't mention it in the first because I wasn't chair and didn't have the voice till Mr. Sadi took control. But anyway, welcome to the board. I know you have experience on the Zoning Board of Appeals, and I do know that you're an attorney, and I have a wealth of knowledge and experience that you can share with us. And just want to say thanks for running and thanks for being part of the board, and welcome.
Thank you.
Also, as we're going to have at every meeting, we're going to have a consideration of whether we should have in-person meetings or not. If in fact we choose not to for the next meeting, or we choose to actually have an in-person meeting for the next meeting, I'd like to keep this on because it's a moving target. And as we've seen in the last month or so, there's quite a surge. So anyway, whatever. I would say that it is on the agenda, and if anyone would like to speak to whether or not to have in-person meetings, the discussion is open.
Just, Mr. Chair, for planning purposes, when you have this discussion and you do go back to in-person meetings, I'm assuming that will happen at some point. It most likely won't be the next meeting. It'll be the meeting after, because we have to advertise way ahead for the meetings and where the meetings take place. So for instance, we're having this meeting tonight. We've already sent in the advertisement because we had to for the next meeting that you'll be having on the 18th. And that meeting is listed as being a virtual meeting.
Okay.
So,
I think there's probably a workaround on that, but we don't need to drill into that right now.
No, it's just a procedural thing because
but if we
statutorily we have to get these ads in a certain amount of time. So all I'm saying is that when you vote to come back,
it's a 2-week look ahead, or a 1 month look ahead.
Exactly.
It's a 1 month look ahead. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, thank you for that clarification. Is there anybody would like to speak to whether or not our next 1 month meeting should be in person or Zoom?
I'll speak to it. I wholeheartedly agree that our next meeting should be virtual. But I think we do have to start talking about getting back in person. In all honesty, we really do. Case in point, like what we just went through with executive session and stuff like that, I do feel there are things that are going to come before us. It's much easier to present in person. I understand cases are rising and I understand all of that. I'm sorry. I do feel to some degree we need to get back to some degree of order, and that has to come in person. And I do feel meetings will run a lot more efficiently, and that's my 2 cents. Everybody else has their opinions, but that's where I'm going with it.
No, thank you. I mean, I appreciate your opinion and I want to hear it, obviously. And it's important. And I'm sure we're all feeling that kind of desire to be back to normal and balanced with safety. And so we're all concerned and we're all.
But I don't want to
thinking
say
about it.
normal. I don't want to say normal. Like we got to get away from saying normal. We have to come up with our new. And in all honesty, the way we are spread out and there's ways, I mean, the Board of Aldermen, there's a lot more of them than we are. We can spread out a little bit more. They're able, so we're able to do a little more social distance. Again, we're not having huge things coming before us, but I do feel when we have to go into executive session, it's, there are things that are coming before us that I do feel we need to be back, in person.
Well, I think the conversation is important to have every meeting, and if anybody would like to speak on this, please do. If not, I think I'd hear a motion on I think we'll hear a motion every meeting on what to do for the next month. Obviously, David has said that it's a 1 month look ahead, but if anybody would like to make a meeting for the first meeting of February, I'd hear it.
So, Mr. Question, before a motion is made, I'd like to speak.
Oh, yeah, but anyone wants to speak, please do, yeah.
And unfortunately, I apologize to you for not being there at the first time we had the first discussion, but I was out of sorts, was not able to get to a computer at all. I just want to fill you in on what I've heard from, because I am on a liaison for the SCROG, which is basically all of our planning and zoning boards that border us and goes, it's probably 20 members. And they've been going through this, Nancy and other members. I did read the minutes of the discussion. They've had real issues too. And some of them are in a hybrid setting. And I asked the question, and I don't know if we've had that asked before, but how come we can't be in hybrid? Because I know that when I was on the Board of Education, we had a very contentious meeting in the City Hall chambers, and we did have a hybrid meeting. At least one, if not two members, were connected by phone. Now, we're not all together. And we've actually had some of our SCROG meetings where several members are actually in the headquarters in North Haven, and others, and they're separated by quite a bit, and then others are in their locations. That is somewhat unique in the sense, the members of the board. So if I got to get there for a 5:15 meeting, I have to leave work early. And that's very helpful. This is a little bit different than our situation where we're in our own town and our own city. So I'm asking that, why is it that we can't have some version of hybrid? And I agree fully with Nancy with the big chambers we have in City Hall where we are. Sometimes it's nice to get out of those little cubicles where we're banging our knees and can't even read our papers. And that probably could be set up. And I think that we should plan ahead for that, because it is important. And I agree fully with what Nancy said, and I've listened to her before, and I read the minutes of the discussion that we have that uniqueness to be able to be close to each other, whether it's 6 feet or 2 feet, to get a full understanding of what we're having. And I appreciate all the work that's been done by David on the Dropbox and everything, but I can tell you, I am getting tired of not being able to have those paper maps and diagrams and drawing in there and having the problem of it breaking down. And is my internet going to fail? Am I going to miss something important? But again, that's for another day. And I'm not making a motion right now. I made my motions for the night, except if you need me for adjournment. So we'll leave it at that. But I just want to be heard. Thank you very much for listening to me.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you, Robert. And
Jim
I'd love to hear
Cushman.
anybody else's thoughts. Yes, Eton.
Yeah, I'll tell you that the Connecticut Judicial Branch is starting to stop with the jury trials going on in the state. So even they are recognizing that the days of in-person gathering may be sort of on hold, at least until we get through this latest phase. So while I agree with Ms. Austin that at some point we do need to get back, I'm not sure now's the right time to do it necessarily. I would say maybe March. I don't know about now in January, February, when we're already seeing a massive spike. I mean, I have COVID. I just got COVID last week. I'm just getting through it right now. So I would say it's probably a little premature at this point to have people coming in person. What if you get one of these big meetings where you have 50, 60 people showing up where it's a high contentious issue? How you get a social distance with that in that respect with such a spike?
Well, thank you for that, Eton. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to talk about it? Express their thoughts? Jimmy?
I think Nancy's making some good points, and I hear what she's saying, but I also hear Eton. I think like right now is not the time to figure out, because it's going to probably get worse in 2 weeks after New Year's Eve and Christmas. So, we already had 1 million cases in the United States, and I think it's going to hit 2 million possibly in 2 weeks. So 1 out of 4 people now are getting it, 24%. So it would be kind of prudent, I think, to at least wait a couple weeks. But I wouldn't have a problem with voting for, say, let's start doing it in March or even February. And then when we get closer, if we feel that we have to back out, like David said, we need a little bit of time. So I wouldn't have a problem with voting for, say, setting up a time that Nancy felt, she would be comfortable going back. And if we got closer and we decided, you know what, it hasn't gotten better, then we can back out as long as there's enough time. So but I just think right now it's getting real bad out there. And we have one of our guys who has it right now. So, it's crazy.
Well, I'm not debating anybody's health or anything like that.
No, of course.
Not what I'm saying whatsoever. I understand safeguards and everything like that. Trust me, I live it. I know it. But all I'm saying is there has to be a point of, this is going to sound but chances are we're all going to get it. It's just the reality we are living in right now. Okay. So I get it. I understand it. And there are ways. So we just have to be prudent in the fact that we are an in-person board. We are. That's what we were all elected on, is 2 meetings a month. This is what we do. We have subcommittees, we have this, and I get it. I understand this has been, thankfully, we've been able to conduct business as usual, but there is a time and place. We do have to return to a setting of where we're in facing our constituents and people are bringing things before us. So I'm not mitigating. I understand and I get it. Trust me. I've been tested more times than I care to even mention, because I'm in and out of more dealerships in the state of Connecticut than anybody probably else. So it's what I do for a living. So I get it. I'm not negating that. All I'm saying is there does come a point in time we have to we have to be sitting there. Like, there are things that we are missing. There are things that are going off the rails. And all I'm saying is we have to figure out a way to get back to in-person meetings, the public coming in. Again, I understand big cases and stuff. I understand all of that. I'm sorry, that's just, I
know
a lot more is done in person than this.
Well, you're welcome to have your thoughts. I want everyone to hear them. Anyone else?
Can I just break in for a second?
Yes. Meg.
Just as a point of order, I think Mr. Sadi asked a question about the hybrid model that David can probably answer and has been answered when he was absent. I just didn't want that point to get lost.
Okay.
Meg, can I fire you now?
I guess you could.
Meg, I asked Joe Griffin the last meeting. I asked Joe Griffin, and Joe Griffin said that it's very expensive and they won't do it.
Right. I just wanted to make sure Bob heard that because
So let's actually ask it again to David, to David, put him like on the hot spot. Is it that it is impossible because of money, or is it impossible because of lack of will to do it, or did you actually understand the technological issue? Is it a feedback issue on the computers, or what is it?
My understanding is that there are some costs associated with the equipment that would be required to have our meetings work both for live streaming and for having the hybrid. And all I can do is tell you what Mr. Griffith told you, and that is that I believe he said the mayor did not want to spend the money, or the money was not available to make those technological upgrades to the Board of Aldermen chambers.
Well, we should talk to our alders. I'd love a hybrid. Personally, I would love a hybrid. I'm concerned about the health issue. I do fully understand the value of being there in person. But if there is one individual that has a health issue and 9 individuals that want to be there in person, like, why not have 10? So if it's possible, I'm gonna advocate for a hybrid option. I don't know if it's gonna work, but whatever.
I would imagine that if enough people contacted their alders or expressed an interest, and maybe even the alders would be interested in this.
And I think that one thing that I think is important, and I understand the concept that it is live and in person is where the most significant interchange and exchange of ideas happens. I get that, but there's also, if there is an issue for a neighborhood and there's a woman or a man who's elderly and maybe it's not anything to do with COVID related, but it's just transportation related, and being able to walk or get in and get out, to be able to express their opinion and be able to participate. I think the hybrid solution could be a wonderful thing for the citizens of Milford, just in general.
But Jim,
Yeah.
What did they do prior to this?
Well, they didn't have it, so this is like an enhanced reality.
So again,
this
is a unique situation that we are in right now. So prior to this,
so let's get some good out of it.
I'm not negating at all.
Grandma wants to be heard, but she can't walk. I want to hear.
I understand. However, prior to and now we're going back to we're changing a lot of, and all I'm saying is I get what you're saying and I understand what you're saying. I do. Trust me, I wholeheartedly do. I get it. However, that's not how all of our meetings were set up prior to what has happened,
Yeah, things have changed.
that we are changing big policy. We are, if we are, so I get and I understand, and I also see both sides. I do, and I'm not negating it, and I am not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying you don't have a point. I'm just saying, prior to this pandemic, we were in person.
I know.
So,
And it was vibrant.
but
And it was alive. I agree. I totally agree. There was a total
so
benefit.
you
Total
can't
benefit.
go down that path of
Yeah.
saying that. You can't, because
That's why I
you
like
know
the
what,
hybrid.
honestly,
That's why I like the hybrid.
this is not the world. This is not how we were elected. This is not what we all have chose to do. So I appreciate it, but I don't want that to hinder what we are charged to do, elected to do, and that's what I'm saying.
I agree. I mean, I definitely hear you. I would say that I think there's consensus that for the next, as David said, we're at a 1 month look ahead. That next month's meeting, so that the 18th meeting will be Zoom, because we couldn't change that if we wanted to. But I think we have consensus that the first meeting in February will be remote. And then we will address it again at that point. Is that a consensus that we can all acquiesce to?
No, I think we need to address it at the next meeting for the second meeting in February.
Okay, that's fine with me. So I
Well,
think
I'm
that my
sorry.
original statement is that it become the discussion at every single meeting. I'm fine with that. I mean, I think it's essential. I agree with you, Nancy. I think it's essential to talk about it.
I think before we have those discussions of when we're going to meet, I think we should have a plan in place of when and the time we will be meeting. I don't think we should have a discussion like, for me, I don't want to do anything in the wintertime. Who wants to be coming out? So if it's just a snowstorm, I'd rather stay here than trying to track to City Hall or anything like that. But that's just my take.
So I mean, are there standard operating procedures to get into public buildings still in place, David? Are they masks required? And
According to the health director and city policy, and before Nancy even says anything about the Board of Aldermen, anybody who's in a public building is required to wear a mask. That includes the Board of Aldermen, even though they don't. But
I understand that, and I'm not debating that. I mean, I wear a mask every freaking day of every time I go out of my house, but like, I'm not debating that. That's not a debate. So I kind of take offense to you saying that. And I get whatever the Board of Aldermen do, they do, but I wear a mask. So whatever, that's not even a question. And I think his question was more on the policy of closing city buildings when there is snowstorms and things like that.
It would have to be a major storm. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen often. I mean, and most of you, obviously, who've been to meetings in person, hey, if it's snowing and you make it, great. If there's a storm, it is what it is. If there's a UConn championship basketball game, well, hopefully we move the meeting along quickly to get out.
We have canceled meetings when there was. We have canceled.
Right, but technically the buildings are still open. But yeah, I mean, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so at any rate, we are here tonight, and we have we need to decide on our 1 month meeting. I think Nancy's point is we address it every meeting, and it's a 1 month look ahead. So I think without exception, we will have the next meeting as a Zoom meeting, because we have to. And so the following meeting, because it's a 1 month look at, we have to have it as a Zoom. So next meeting, the second meeting in January, we will decide on the second meeting in February. Does that seem accurate to you, David, on
Yes.
what our potential?
Second meeting of January, our next meeting, we have to discuss the second meeting of February.
Right.
That's, if I didn't say that well, that's what I was trying to say.
Right. Right.
Yeah, so our next meeting will determine what the second meeting of February will do. And hopefully we'll be in good shape.
I'm sorry, I'm still concerned about how we will meet, or what are the parameters, how we'll be sitting, or I'm not sure who's vaccinated, who's not vaccinated. How does that come into play?
Well, so I
Yeah,
think that's a question that we need to be answered by the Milford Health Department. They will give us guidelines on, when it comes time to vote on a yes, we should have, we don't have a yes yet, but at the next meeting, we might have a yes for the second meeting in February. And at that point, before we vote on it, we should have the state and the city's health departments telling us what their recommendations are, what the distancing requirements are, what it is, if it's a public hearing, what happens if somebody comes in without a mask and won't wear one? So those are questions we should
So, yeah,
ask and address.
Yeah, so exactly. They can tell you, and they know our chambers and where we all sit and how far we all have to sit apart and where the podium needs to be and spacing in the city hall. And don't forget, there is a second floor of this. There's a gallery up top.
Yeah, the mezzanine. Yeah.
Yeah, there is ample sitting in to be socially distant. So again, I'm not trying to negate anybody's anything, and masks are required. It's a public, so all I'm saying is we do have to try to figure out, and maybe we contact the Milford Health Department and get their guidelines of how we set up our meeting. They did it for the Board of Ed.
Yeah.
If I could just jump in, I'm sorry, I know David doesn't like me to talk, but there's also a factor of the public address hardware in that room is not super flexible. And the cameras are angled such that, for MGAT, such that sitting in that horseshoe is a factor. So there's a few more pieces to this, I think, to Carl's point, logistically, that need to be put into place. You can't be up in the balcony and be amplified. There's no mics up there. So
no, I understand that, and they would have.
And I'm not making an objection. I'm just saying I think a plan really is required.
Well, I understand, and we're giving it ample time to be able to work on a plan.
So who's going to do that work? Who's going to do that work to get that to happen?
It's usually me. Like I said, the wiring on that PA system only goes so far because I've rearranged that room for subcommittee meetings. So
how did the Board of Ed go from changing from their normal chambers to Jonathan Long? I'm just purely asking a question.
I have no idea. Blessing probably has an idea, but I don't.
Just ask again. I'm just asking a question, and I'm not looking to.
No, that's it. I think
any of that.
They're essential questions. So I think that for now, let's understand that our next meeting will be remote, and that we will bring it up again, and that we will send our concerns to David via email and let him distribute them through Joe to the mayor, or however it happens, to say that we are seriously considering, at our soonest opportunity to get back in person. And when we have contentious issues, there's going to be crowds, and how do we meet health department guidelines to do that effectively? So I think for now we've done enough work for tonight, and I would ask for a motion to adjourn unless there's a staff report.
No staff report this evening.
Okay, so we would.
Mr.
pass-
Quish,
Yes,
I'm
go
sorry, point of information. I'd asked, one of the things I noticed, we don't have an updated list of all the board members. We definitely have got a new one on. So we can't communicate with each other, whether we're in person or virtual. So if we can get that within the next week with all our phone numbers and everything, because I know that Peggy's gone, Mr. Broster left. I got 2021. So that would be part of the staff report. Just asking to be done.
Yes, we can update the list.
Okay.
With that said, I've got nothing more to say unless somebody else wants to make a motion to adjourn without me talking.
Tim, can I say something before you adjourn?
No, we're going to adjourn without you talking. See ya. No, sure, of course you can.
I don't know how quick it'll be. Can we talk about what happened tonight with that litigation? I didn't say.
No. You cannot talk about an executive session. You can talk, you cannot say
Wait till next
anything
time
about the
when
executive
the
session.
city attorney brings us together in executive session. Otherwise, that verboten.
Okay, that's why I was asking if I can. Okay.
Well, we can talk about an executive session, but not that exact executive session, how we
Yeah,
want
well,
to.
we can talk about the concept of executive
Yes.
session,
All
but
right.
not the. I think Jim has something to say because he always does.
Okay.
But
Move to
anyway,
adjourn.
I want to thank you all for your time and effort tonight, and again, welcome Eton in, and hope you're feeling well.
Better
And
today.
healing fully. I would have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Joseph, second, without exception.
All right.
Thank you all.
Have a good
Happy
evening,
New Year.
everyone. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.